Here's Theo Dorsey.
What a year for Jared Goff. He gets the win over Matt Stafford in the playoffs. He makes it all the way to the NFC Championship game, and now he inks a deal with the Detroit Lions. 4 years, $212 million, $170 million of that guaranteed. The former number one overall pick gets paid.
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around.
That's right. And in the talk about Jared Goff getting the major bag and resetting not resetting the quarterback market, but certainly making a shift, is our friend on a Monday, Mike Tannenbaum. Mike T pulling up on Theoretically Speaking. Mike, how was your Mother's Day weekend?
It was good. Yeah, I think about Mother's Day as a little bit like the NCAA tournament. You're never going to win. You just want to survive in advance. So
That's a good. I love that call on it. So you survived in advance. You made it through. You got the flower. You did the whole thing right.
I don't know if I did the whole thing right, but survive in advance. That's always the key.
Love it. I will write that down as a person that is also 3 months into my marriage. I'll write that down as a note. Survive in advance. Mother's Day weekend. Get out clean. Somebody that's feeling really good coming off this Mother's Day weekend has got to be Jared Goff. You saw the deal, 4 years, $212 million, $170 million guaranteed. Mike T, you're a guy that's all about value, right? You like to talk about how much percentage of a cap a guy's taking up versus what he actually provides for you on the field. Is this deal, Jared Goff with the Detroit Lions, a good value for the franchise?
I don't know if it's a good value, but I think it's a bill that at this point you have to pay. He's played very well. It's going to cost them a good player or two down the road. Who that will be, obviously, it's not going to be Aiden Hutchinson, but some of their other B or B plus players will have to graduate. We've seen that time and time again as teams, sign, franchise quarterbacks. We saw Buffalo move on from a bunch of players this offseason, and that's just kind of the cost of doing business. But Jared Goff has played very well as a Detroit Lion.
He's now the third highest paid quarterback via APY, at least, in the NFL, right behind Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. The other names you see up there is Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Under him, you get Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. It doesn't feel like Jared Goff gets talked in the conversation with those guys as game changers. Is there something that you would like to see out of him in 2024, especially with the talent around him also getting major paydays, that will make you feel like, okay, he can enter that conversation as one of the elite quarterbacks in the league, and not just a guy who can get you wins?
He's come close, a couple of times, right? Got to the championship game this year, got to the Super Bowl as a member of the Rams. I think he's got to win one. This guy's accomplished a lot, though. Theo, when we think about, right, first pick overall, he's played well, a little bit under the radar. I think his personality is one in which, like, people, he doesn't draw any attention to himself, but give him credit because he has played good football.
Mike Tannenbaum joining us here on Theoretically Speaking on a Monday, talking some Jared Goff getting paid. I'm curious to you. We know that the Miami Dolphins have a quarterback decision to make when it comes to money as well with Tua Tagovailoa. Does Tua deserve more than or less than what Goff just got from the Lions?
Yeah, I said this a few times. I think it's really like apples and oranges. Average per year, sure. I think the real challenge there is going to be how do you handle the guaranteed money? And I can give an argument on both sides. The Dolphins are going to say, look, you were hurt in college, you've been hurt as a pro, and we just can't give you a market deal. He's going to say, like, well, wait a second, there were 66 quarterbacks that started a year ago, and now I played the whole year, so I've answered that question.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. It feels like Jared Goff is starting to answer the you can just blitz him all day long and he gets flustered questions. Tua last year answered the at least health questions for one season. We'll have to see what he does on that fifth-year option. For you, too, I mean, you've talked about the Purdy deal that's also coming down the line in the NFC. That one feels like it's almost more similar with Goff when you talk about how surrounded by talent they are and also the decisions they'll have to make down the line. Is Purdy a guy that can net something as high as Goff, or do you think it'll be better off for the franchise for them to try to keep him under that marker?
Well, I think what's interesting is I think if they go early, he'll need a discount, right? Because the 49ers are saying, hey, if we go early, we're going to need a little bit of a hedge. And if they go after this year, he'll have 1 year to go and, of course, can still be franchised. So it will be very interesting to see how that shakes out and whether or not, like he's willing to bet on himself, because if he is, then he doesn't have to take a discount. He could just let the market play out and see how it goes.
Gotta love that. Again, Jared Goff getting paid $212 million by the Detroit Lions, the highest paid player in Lions history now. And if you think about the run that Detroit had last year, it started off on that Thursday night football opener against the Kansas City Chiefs, where they got the win over the reigning champions. We just found out, I know the schedule releases in a couple days, but we found out we're opening up the next NFL season September 5th, Thursday night football, Ravens versus Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. How much do you feel like the Ravens have to gain from that game in particular? We saw that it didn't really matter to the Chiefs last year. They lost it. They went on to win the Super Bowl. But a team like the Ravens, how much do you feel like they have to gain in a game like that, especially given the way they were bounced from the playoffs last year?
Oh, I think it's very helpful. Look, Kansas City went on the road. They beat Buffalo. Kansas City went on the road and obviously beat Baltimore. But the reason this game is meaningful is it could be that tiebreaker for a playoff game down the road, and I think that's the most significant part of what. It's such a long year, but I think in the back of teams' minds, both Coach Harbaugh and Coach Reed, that's what they're thinking.
Got to be locked in on that, especially with the opponents in your conference that are also contenders. One more offseason question before I ask you to pit franchises' offseasons against each other. We also heard some news today that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made Antoine Winfield Jr. the highest paid defensive back in the league, and also the highest paid safety, it looks like, in the history. 4 years, $84 million. Now, I hear safety's not a premium position in the NFL. Does that mean that this thing might be shifting to where safety can be that? We saw the play of Kyle Hamilton. We see Winfield getting paid. Or is this more just about Winfield being that kind of guy that the Buccaneers couldn't let go?
Yeah, I think it's more of the latter, especially like when you think about like a Todd Bowles defense, because he can blitz, he can cover. He's a tone setter. I think the way Coach Bowles likes to play puts a lot of pressure on those safeties because he asks them to wear a lot of different hats. So I do think generally we're going to see corners get paid more than safeties. But in this particular instance, I'm not exactly surprised.
Gotcha. And again, we got Mike Tannenbaum here on Theoretically Speaking. We're talking NFL offseason. Goff got paid. Winfield got paid. There were other teams that made some shifts in the offseason this year. I'm going to just we'll do rapid fire. And if you have some extra takes on it, you can give us that as well. But I'll pit two teams against each other. You tell me who so far has had the best offseason. And we'll start in the AFC with two contenders, the Cincinnati Bengals or the Buffalo Bills. Who has had the better offseason to date?
I'll go with the Bengals. So I think the Bills had a bad offseason, losing most of their secondary. So I like what the Bengals did on their offensive line. They got bigger. Marius Mims, I think, is going to be a really good player. So a little concerned about that Bills secondary losing Poyer and Hyde and Tre'Davious White.
Gotcha. So we got Bengals over the Bills. How about in the NFC East, the New York Giants or the Dallas Cowboys?
Ooh, I don't think either of them did well. I still don't understand how the Giants bypass J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix. I think there's as good a chance that we're going to be seeing, Drew Lock at quarterback as Daniel Jones, who's missed 23 games since 2019. So I don't think Dallas is anything great in terms of their offseason, but I'm just befuddled by what the Giants have done.
Ezekiel Elliott doesn't move you? The reunion?
5 years ago we would have.
Mike Tannenbaum pitting teams off seasons against each other. He's got the Bengals over the Bills. He's got the Giants and Cowboys both with kind of a draw. I guess you went with the Giants there. How about NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I think the Buccaneers were better just because, again, talking about befuddling, I just don't understand how you could give, $100 million to Kirk Cousins and then 5 weeks later draft Michael Penix, who I happen to like. But again, this is a resource allocation discussion as it relates to, at the NFL when you have such precious resources between the draft and the salary cap. So I think Tampa Bay, a little bit under the radar, but I think more efficient than what Atlanta did.
We're going to go AFC East here. The Miami Dolphins, who still have a Tua decision on their hands, or the New York Jets, who know who's going to be starting at quarterback then for the near future.
I like what the Jets did. I think getting Olu Fashanu wasn't a headline grabber, but with Tyron Smith and Moses, having injury concerns, I thought it was it made sense to do what they did relative to drafting Olu Fashanu because, keeping Aaron Rodgers healthy is really job one. So I like how they double down on that.
Gotcha. And then the last one, the defending champion Super Bowl Chiefs versus the team they took out in the Super Bowl, the San Francisco 49ers. Who had the better offseason, Mike T?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the 49ers. A little bit under the radar, but look, I think held serve by keeping Brandon Ayuk right now and Deebo Samuel. And then, they drafted 2 receivers, starting with, Ricky Pearsall from the University of Florida, Jacob Cowing from Arizona. So, to me, I like the fact that they kept the receivers and gave themselves some flexibility down the road.
Got you, Mike T. And before we get you out of here, one last thing. Now that Winfield got his extension with the Buccaneers, the only player left who was franchise tagged who has not gotten a deal is T. Higgins, wide receiver with the Cincinnati Bengals. What's what are you hearing about what could happen with him? I know he said he expects to be a Bengal this year. Do you think he gets signed, or does he play under the tag, or do they move him?
Yeah, we have that July 15th deadline because I don't think a team's going to give up anything of value if they can't get an extension done. So as we get closer to that deadline, that'll tell us a lot. My sense is, I would think he'll be there and move on after this year, and Cincinnati will load up to try to obviously win it all with a healthy Joe Burrow.
Gotta love it. Mike T, appreciate you dropping in on us on Theoretically Speaking, and continue to survive in advance, my guy.
All right, guys. Thank you.